Well, thank you for joining us today. We've got a few folks here today on a Friday morning. This is a special day for Pittsburgh and for Allegheny County, and I feel a little out of place here standing with these renowned wrestlers who are here with us today, as we're here to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Bruno Sammartino becoming the world champion and honoring us, our Pittsburghers here. It's a very exciting day. Absolutely. And he looks like he could still win the championship today, I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, I am joined here today by Council President Dr. Charles Martoni, the current Council President. I'm also joined here by the first County Council President, John DeFazio, who are longtime contemporaries of Bruno's way back when. And Pittsburghers of a certain age will certainly remember all three of them from their days of fame and fortune in Western Pennsylvania. Also joined by Councilman Finnerty and Councilwoman Danko. I don't know if they ever wrestled. Maybe they did. We'll find out. But we know the other two did. And it's always great when Bruno comes to the courthouse to hear John and Chuck tell the war stories and the famous things, and I think they're going to probably maybe tell us one or two when they come up here today. But well, let me begin the actual festivities. First of all, this is the 50th anniversary of Bruno Sammartino's first WWWF championship title. On May 17th, 1963, he defeated Nature Boy Buddy Rogers in 48 seconds. People didn't get their money's worth. If they missed if they stopped and got stuck in traffic, they missed the show. He's the only man to lift Haystacks Calhoun. And I don't know if people know how much Haystacks Calhoun weighed, but he weighed 640 pounds. And Bruno lifted him above his head before dropping him to the mat. That poor man. Exciting year. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, the National Hall of Fame, on April 6, 2013 at Madison Square Garden. Bruno Sammartino has another record. He has a record of being the person who sold out Madison Square Garden more than anybody. More than the Beatles, more than Frank Sinatra, more than any other performer. He sold it out an unprecedented 200. He appeared there 211 times, sold it out 187 times. He was quite an attraction in his day. That's not his only honor. He also was inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame. He has been the Wrestler of the Year, the most inspirational wrestler, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum, the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance Hall of Fame, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, and the Madison Square Garden Walk of Fame. That's just to name a few. And one other thing I think is so important for a great inspiration, a great Pittsburgher. Bruno did this without ever using steroids or any other performance enhancement. It was all him. It was through his hard work and his determination, and he's been a great advocate and a spokesman speaking out against the use of drugs to enhance performance. And his advocacy has led to the WWE's establishment of a talent wellness program. He has been an inspiration to many for many, many years. I think probably a lot of people don't know is as a little kid, he was actually bullied. I mean, I don't know who those bullies were, but I wouldn't want to be them. And then, he learned to build up himself, build up his body, and become truly an inspiration. Many to this day look up to Bruno, not just because of the championships, but really because of his kindness, his humility, and the unlikely beginnings of his life. Now, he was not born here. He was not born in Pittsburgh. He was born in Italy. He came to Pittsburgh at the age of 18. And parenthetically, he came from the same village my wife's family came from, and they both settled in the same part of town in Oakland, where a lot of Italian immigrants came to that time. But Bruno became a Pittsburgher immediately and has never left. He has always been somebody who's been a great Pittsburgher, a great ambassador, and I think Pittsburghers literally fell in love with him the first time they saw him on studio wrestling with Bill Cardille and Ringside Rosie and all those folks we used to watch on Saturday night. Just to bring back a few names for those of you who remember, probably remember Gorilla Monsoon, probably remember The Crusher, probably remember Bill Watts, George the Animal Steel, Bobo Brazil, some guy named Jumpin' Johnny DeFazio. I think we forgot him. I don't know who he is. Frank Carnegie Cobb Holtz, Hurricane Hunt, Tony the Batman Marino, some guy named the Masked Marvel. I forget who he is too, Dr. Martoni. And then John L. Sullivan, a.k.a. Johnny Valiant. It's really something very impressive. We'll present this proclamation in just a moment, but I did want to have John DeFazio, who wrestled with Bruno many, many years ago, continues to work with Bruno, has been on County Council since the very beginning, was the first president of County Council, and I wanted to have John and then Chuck come up and say a few words and maybe tell a story or two about his days with Bruno. John?
Yeah, I'm glad I could be here today. Sometimes I'm out of state because my real job, Rich, a real job. Yeah, it is. But seriously, a lot of times I'm out of town. I miss some of these things, but I'm glad I could be here today. And Bruno, they couldn't give it this year, honoring him into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. I don't know if anyone deserves it more than him. Bruno did a lot of great things. He's been a big asset to wrestling. I don't know if anybody had a bad word to say about Bruno. He's always been fair, good with everybody, do anybody a favor. Always a good guy. But don't let that fool you, because like they were talking about steroids. Bruno never took steroids. But you go back like 50 plus years ago, he was doing 565 pounds on a bench. That was like a unofficial world record, okay? I mean, today, as time goes on, with all the things we're taking, they're getting better and better. But back in them days, you didn't hear of anybody doing that kind of weight. He was very strong, very, very strong. But to tell you a couple quick stories, one story I have to laugh about when I think about this. I was in a dressing room one day, and every now and then, some of the wrestlers like to challenge you to different feats and different things or whatever. He said to Bruno, he said, "Come here," he said, "I want to try you at this here finger wrestling." Bruno never liked to get involved. He said, "I don't want to be bothered." Come on. He said, and Bruno said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Give me your middle finger and I'll take mine. And you turn one way, I'll turn the other way." So Bruno said, "Okay, I'll try it." So they did it. And I'm standing there, I heard crack. I thought someone cracked a tree, branch off a tree. The wrestler goes to Bruno. He says, "You all right?" Bruno said, "I'm fine." I said, "Hey, look. His fingers busted and snapped his finger." He's asking Bruno if he's all right. I said, "You better go see the doctor." He snapped his finger almost in half. It was actually funny. He's asking Bruno, "You all right?" Bruno said, "I'm fine." It's just unbelievable how strong he was. And I'll tell you something. He was actually world renowned, known for his arm wrestling. I mean, he was, Bruno was a lot bigger and naturally a lot stronger years ago. He has like, I guess, I don't know, about a 9 or 9.5 inch wrist. It's real big, whatever it is, maybe 11, I don't know. But he would beat everybody at arm wrestling with no trouble. I never seen anybody that could beat him. So there's a lot of things about Bruno, and he was always quiet, never bragged about anything. Like some of the wrestlers, we got some crazy people in that racket, but Bruno was always a kind, decent person. And again, I'd like to say, I'm glad I could be here today to say some good things about Bruno because they're all true. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. And also somebody who wrestled with Bruno for many years, went on to become a professor, a doctor at our community college, also served on the very first county council with John and myself. and the current president of Allegheny County Council, Dr. Charles Martoni. Chuck, the mass marvel.
Thank you. It's always a privilege to be standing next to Bruno Sammartino. My history with Bruno goes long before wrestling, okay? When I was a young guy, and that was a long, long time ago, okay, I started to exercise and work out at the WIIC in Oakland. And I met Bruno Sammartino there, who was actually their instructor, really. He knew everything about exercise. And this is long before wrestling, okay? And I learned that Bruno had a great potential. He was going to be a great man. I never even thought about wrestling at that time. And I don't know if he did either. And then I went away to the Army for a while. And I came back, and I turned the television on, and who's wrestling with Bruno Sammartino? I said to myself, I know this guy well. And I have a lot of fond memories. But my greatest memory of him was his kindness. We could talk about all his achievements and all the thousands of people that he won over in the ring. But his greatest achievement, in my opinion, is being an outstanding gentleman, a man of culture, a man that we can absolutely be proud of for several reasons. One reason is he's one of us. He's a Pittsburgher, okay? He's one of us. He spent most of his life, he was raised right up the street in parts of Oakland, okay? And that's why we worked out at the WWWF in Oakland, okay? A true gentleman. We could talk about all his feats in the ring, but we don't have to because we all know that. We all know that. He was the absolute best at what he did. And trust me, no matter what he would have done, if Bruno wasn't a wrestler and he was a doctor, he'd be the best doctor in town. Whatever he would have done, he would have been the best. And I'm proud to say that I knew him for a time in the wrestling world, and I was one of his great admirers, along with him and Johnny. I thought they were the best. But Bruno was the absolute best, not in America, but in the world. The absolute best. So I am proud to be here today to salute Bruno's success, and he's going to have a lot more success in life. Everywhere he goes, there'll be people like you and I there to greet him, to thank him for all the good things he did, not only for us in Pittsburgh, but for the United States of America. Okay, he was a blessing for all of us. So it's my privilege to be here to speak on Bruno's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And I'm not sure which one of them beat up Chuck till he has to, Probably was John. I don't know. Anyway, let me do the official business of this county. We're about to name a day after Bruno, and John and Chuck and I jointly doing this. And I know John has one on council, but let me do the official whereas proclamation for our hero, Mr. Bruno Sammartino. Whereas Mr. Bruno Sammartino was born in Abruzzi, Italy, at the age of 14. Immigrated to the United States. He made a name for himself and began his career in the 1950s, being named Mr. Allegheny and setting a world record in the bench press with a lift of 565 pounds in 1959. Whereas making his professional debut in Pittsburgh by pinning his opponent in 19 seconds, Mr. Sammartino quickly became extremely popular, appearing on the local television program Studio Wrestling. And by the way, Bill Cardille sends his regards. Bill couldn't be here, Chilly Billy. He's on the radio today, but he certainly sends his regards to Bruno, John, and Chuck. Whereas Mr. Sammartino achieved notable fame and made major headlines when he became the first man to lift Haystacks Calhoun, weighing 640 pounds, above his head and dropping him to the mat in a 1960 match. And whereas Mr. Sammartino won his first heavyweight championship 50 years ago today, on May 17th, 1963, by defeating Nature Boy Buddy Rogers in only 48 seconds in front of an awestruck crowd at Madison Square Garden. The match was considered to be a tough contest, and Mr. Sammartino shocked all in attendance at his ability to dominate the champion. And whereas known as the living legend, Mr. Sammartino held the Worldwide Wrestling Federation title for 12 years and is the longest reigning champion in professional wrestling history. He has performed extraordinary weightlifting feats and has traveled the world throughout his wrestling career. And whereas Mr. Sammartino has done 20 tours in Japan, has sold out sizable venues in Australia 21 nights in a row, and has sold out Madison Square Garden 187 times out of his 211 appearances there. Whereas a statue of Mr. Sammartino was placed in his home of Pizzaferrato, Italy in 2000, and he has participated in a number of documentaries, including Bruno Sammartino's Legends Never Die, La Roccia, The Passing of the Belt, and The Boys Are Back. And whereas after many years and much discussion, Mr. Sammartino was inducted into the World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Fame on Saturday, April 6, 2013. Mr. Sammartino has been admired by fans for years because of his kindness, humble demeanor, and unlikely beginnings. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, along with Council President Chuck Martoni and Councilmember John DeFazio, by virtue of the authority vested in us, to hereby proclaim May 17, 2013 as Bruno Sammartino Day in Allegheny County. We are proud today to honor Mr. Sammartino for the inspiration that he has been to many, and to congratulate him on the many outstanding accomplishments that he has achieved in his lifetime. And as John and Chuck both said, what's so great about Bruno is he's a Pittsburgher, and he embodies us in Pittsburgh. We are so proud that this day is now Bruno Sammartino Day in Allegheny County. Bruno, congratulations.
Thank you so very much. First of all, thank you, Mr. Rich Fitzgerald. Thank you so very much. Johnny DeFazio, Chuck Martoni, they said some wonderful things about me, but let me tell you, believe me, I know these guys for over 50 years. They're pretty special guys. I've always said if they ran for any kind of office, these are guys that I would vote without even questioning, because I know their integrity, their honesty, their decency, and I thank them for being here today. I have many, many memories with them. I want to thank you all for being here. I see some of my relatives, my cousin here, Filomena, Fernando, nice to see you. I see a friend from all the way from Washington, D.C. Always surprises me. This guy even came to Italy, but when they honored me there, he popped up. I couldn't believe it. Chris Cruz. Chris, thank you for being here. I thank all of you. But you know, yes, 50 years ago, let me tell you that when I first came to this country, and we settled in Pittsburgh because my dad had come here before the war, and this is where he settled. And he worked first, he worked in the coal mines, but then he worked in the steel mills. And so naturally, when we came over, we came to Pittsburgh. When we first came here, we didn't know what to think, because as a kid in Europe, I had envisioned America as I had heard stories as a kid that the streets were paved in gold and so forth. And we had a stone house in the old country in my town, you know, it was a pretty nice house. When we came over here, we settled in South Oakland, and my dad had bought this old house, and when we moved in, the plaster was coming off the walls, and we thought, wow, you know, it's not in the beginning what I thought of America, all the stories I heard as a kid. And then trying to learn the language, as Mr. Fitzgerald mentioned here, because I was very sickly, because I had been very sick during a period during the war. I had come down with rheumatic fever, and I'd been sick for a long time. So I was very delicate, let's put it that way, when I came here. Trying to learn the language, yeah, we experienced bullying. So things weren't very pleasant in the beginning. But I must tell you that as time went on and all that nonsense was behind us, I come to realize and appreciate Pittsburgh and what a special city it is, not only because of the city itself, but it's what it's made out of, and that's the people that are in it. I can tell you that 50 years ago, when I first became the world champion, my life was to change. I never realized how much it would change because with that responsibility of being the so-called champion, you had to travel, and I started traveling all over the world. I made many, I did 20 tours of Japan alone, many in Australia, South America. I went to South Africa, Europe, you name it, and I've been there. And I'll tell you, everywhere I went, I missed the family first of all, but I missed this town because Pittsburgh to me was always special. And everywhere I went, and I can honestly tell you this, that I wanted to honor my parents, and my heritage. I always was announced as formerly from Abruzzo, Italy, but I always said about now residing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Many people ask me throughout my career, Bruno, you've been all over the United States and around the world. What makes you stay in Pittsburgh? And I always tell them, well, evidently by asking me that question, you don't know too much about Pittsburgh. Because in my opinion, and I say this in all sincerity, every place I've been in this country, it's a beautiful country we live in. A lot of beautiful cities, a lot of beautiful towns. But for me, I don't know. That never even entered my mind, the thought of ever living anyplace else but Pittsburgh. I love this town. The people here are great. They've always been great to me. This town, I could never repay for all the kindness it has shown me throughout my life. And so you know, it's just I feel blessed to. I thank my God that my father had settled here and brought us over here. And so after a long career, 50 years, let me tell you too that it was great the day that I retired. To be able to come home, now to be home like a regular person and spend time with the family, because for 24 and a half years, I was on the road, and it's not fun. It's not great, and I longed to be home, to be back home with the family and so forth. And since my retirement, I've been a very, very happy guy because I have a lot of friends here in Pittsburgh, and I love it. Like I said, I can't tell you enough times how much I love the city. I love the people in it. And even though I've been retired now for over 30 years, 32 years I guess it's been, it's amazing. I would have never believed, I believed in Chuck Noll's old philosophy. Chuck Noll used to say when one of the Steelers was at the end of the road, said, well, time to go on with the rest of your life, And when I retired, I was ready to go on with the rest of my life. I did not expect anything. I was a happy guy just to be home and that. But my goodness, so many things. As Mr. Fitzgerald here has mentioned all the different things that, believe me, I never expected. Started with my own town in Pittsburgh, Italy, where they built this monument in my honor. Never expected that, and I'm, very grateful for that because it's such a beautiful town with wonderful people in it. And then I went into the Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. The Dappers Den honored me with the Man of the Year, Lifetime Achievement Award, I should say, and Hall of Fames of different kinds. Recently, I was in Columbus, Ohio for the International Sports Hall of Fame. Then the WWE Hall of Fame, which was held in Madison Square Garden. And now this wonderful honor here in the city. It's always more special when you're being honored at the city that you love, with the people that you love. It always makes it that extra special. So anyway, I'm just very grateful, and I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank the city and Mr. Fitzgerald and everybody who saw me worthy of this wonderful, wonderful honor today. Thank you.
I'm going to introduce someone in one minute, real quick. We also have a proclamation from Chuck Martoni and myself, which I'm not going to read because it'd only be redundant from the one Rich read, so we'll just hand this to Bruno. But I would like to introduce, is Ben Brown here from the WWE?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, come on up.
Ben has a special presentation.
Yeah, he has a special presentation.
Hello, everyone.
not quite as nicely dressed as everyone else up here, so I apologize. But I've had the honor of being around Bruno just for the last couple of months. All of us at WWE have been just blessed with this opportunity. I know Bruno has seen this, but as it's the 50th anniversary of him winning the WWWF championship, I brought along with me the actual championship.
Championship belt. Well, Bruno, thank you. Enjoy your day. We're glad to be in your county today for Bruno Sammartino Day in Allegheny County. Congratulations.